right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Coaching Collective podcast. A little bit of a different podcast today, though. So today, we are going to break down the IFBB Natural Federation and my sort of take on it, my take on the results, etc. And I thought that would be an interesting one. I haven't done one of these in a very long time. I think I did one of these for the whole season summary. I did a few season summaries back in 2024. But I just thought, that would be kind of cool. It was one of the shows that I attended this season. So what I attend this season, I attended this and I attended the NBA Melbourne Show. Didn't hang around the NBA Melbourne Show just due to some personal matters. Couldn't hang out the whole day, but was lucky enough to be at this show the whole day. I will lead by saying I didn't really have much of a input on the women's categories outside of bikini, just because I was with clients. But nonetheless, I will still provide a little bit of an insight, and I'll just lead by saying the show itself was really well run. It was a really, really good show. It had a really professional feel, which I feel like sometimes the natural federations can lack outside of NBA. I do like the NBA shows as well. And the caliber of athletes was also quite good as well. There was no suspicion on my end or apprehension or concern around the potential for like fake naturals or anything like that. I wouldn't say that anyone struck me as like potentially being a fake natty. We don't know. We never will know. But just so you know, this is going to happen in all federations. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, the 3-year drug policy is no good." Most of the other federations have a 3 to 5 year drug-free policy as well. I don't think any of them are lifetime. Correct me if I'm wrong. Less familiar with like your IMBAs, your WNBFs, so I can't really comment on that. But NBA, ICN, AMB. I think they follow similar protocols. I know that ICN definitely do. But obviously this was urine testing, no polygraph testing. We obviously know that we can overcome a polygraph test regardless. At the end of the day, I like polygraph testing, I get it. But if you're a shit enough person to do a natural federation knowing that you've used assistance, you're probably going to be capable of overcoming a polygraph test just via your narcissistic tendencies. So shout out to anyone who has done a natural show, assisted, or has previously been assisted, etc. You're a piece of shit. Don't do that. Like, it doesn't achieve anything. Like, I don't even understand why someone would do it. It's not even like a lack of regard for the other athletes. Like, all that stuff aside, all the nature of the federations or whatever, it's more just like, what kind of accomplishment are you getting out of doing a natural show knowing that you've used assistance? Compete with the big boys, man. Compete with the guys who are openly assisted as well. And if that scares you, well, don't compete. That's it. Let's crack on. This was the men's physique juniors. Manuel was the winner, I believe. Yep. Okay. So he was a junior. Obviously, we don't need to comment on that. That was a clear win. There he is. He looked phenomenal. I thought the men's physique was actually judged a little bit strangely for my liking. Obviously, we know it's a very criteria-heavy category, but there was a couple of guys that placed towards the top of the cohort who weren't in shape. This is clearly not that. He looks fucking unreal. But I won't be too specific in regards to what I am referring to. I thought third place here didn't deserve to be third place. That's just my straight up honesty. I'm just going to be straight up about it. But congratulations regardless. Just from a conditioning standpoint, I thought this was fair. And likewise, I did think this was fair. I thought you could probably split hairs between the three of these guys, or at least between first and second. It's actually funny because when I was watching on, I actually felt that second place Momo, if that's how you say it, correct me if I'm wrong, I actually thought he was going to be the winner. I thought he looked exceptional. Not to say that Emmanuel didn't look exceptional, but just from a criteria point of view, they were quite on par with one another. I'd say Emmanuel might be a little bit tighter to the criteria, but just density, overall conditioning, I thought second place was potentially slightly better. But again, what do I know? Men's Physique Open again, and then we had our Open winner as well. So it's pretty straightforward because the winner from the Open, the winner from Juniors, the winner from Novice, all very much aligned. But let's just move into Classic because I think it was a little bit less black and white. When it came to Classic, this was pretty obvious who was first and second. But the only critique I had for men's physique was, just some blurring of the lines. But it's always going to be like that in men's physique, just because criteria is taken into account, and conditioning, muscularity, presentations all taken into account. it's not always going to be the hardest, driest, leanest individual who takes away the win. And you're often going to see some individuals who aren't as hard, aren't as sharp, place a little bit better just through being an actual men's physique competitor rather than being a bodybuilder in board shorts. Classic physique, we had our boy Lucas in second. We had Bailey in first. Bailey, great guy, deserved the win there. I do believe that Bailey pipped Lucas just through muscularity. And I don't think it was necessarily a game of conditioning. Not to say that Bailey wasn't in better condition than Lucas, but just the fact that he was a more muscular individual from the rear chain presented that he was in better condition, in my view. So I think that was a very favourable first and second, and I thought there was quite a gap between second and third, so that's just my take on that as well. Again, very similar, Bailey deserved it. Bailey very classic here as well, which was very much deserving. It was actually quite interesting to see him pipped towards the end. We'll get to that in a second. So just a true novice, there you have your novice. Again, third place, just not fitting that classic criteria. Didn't necessarily feel that second fit that classic criteria either, hence Bailey in first. Just with that waistline, that overall symmetry, presentation, aura, just wasn't there in that second or third place. Midsection, so on and so forth. Nick looked great as well. I thought Nick looked great in third place there. And second place was Jamie, was just incredible condition. So that's the reason we got that second place there. And then we had Joel Callitz, a little bit of a dark horse. When they told me that a guy was just getting up there and just standing on the side for his quarter turn rather than actually sitting in a pose, I was like, what are you talking about? And I jumped out because I'd missed the category at the start, and then I saw literally him just standing there on his side, looking like Arnold. And I thought to myself, if this guy was posing, if this guy's tan was better, if this guy was even just dialed in a little bit better, I think he could really just wipe the floor with everything here. Not to say that he didn't, he got the overall win. But yeah, just the reason they created this category is to embody the 70s, 80s bodybuilders, Arnold Schwarzenegger being the epitome of that. If you get a guy that looks like Arnold, he's going to win. That's how it should be, as long as they're in shape and they're not out of shape. So that was a fair win. And then obviously with the overall as well, that vacuum, look at that Arnold pose. Even just like, it's like he was cloned from Arnold. Crazy. Looks more like Arnold than his son. Bodybuilding was an interesting one. I did watch on a little bit less with this, in fairness. But as we know with bodybuilding, there's always a reasonable discrepancy, between one athlete to the next, just because we generally see the top line is incredible in regards to structure, muscularity, conditioning, presentation, and then that rung just under it typically is just a little bit off the pace. Less of a criteria-driven category, more about just being as freaky as possible. And I think Jordan Tassin was that right there. So there wasn't a hell of a lot to bodybuilding. That was a little bit, I wouldn't say necessarily a letdown. You see this in most natural federations. Damn, look at him. That's an interesting one. It just makes you wonder, like, what could he amount to if he really pushed for it? Because he seemed pretty blasé about it all, to be honest. We had figure. I'm not even going to comment on figure because I didn't really pay enough attention to give it the respect that it deserves. No disrespect to it. I was just with clients at the time. Okay? And then we jump into wellness. That is an exceptional natural wellness competitor. More or less placing as we would have expected to. Bodybuilding Masters, don't know why that's come through so late. And then we had the Naturals Bikini Junior, so I'm hoping we got our comparisons coming here too. Did we not get our comparisons? Maybe we didn't. Oh, there we go. Wellness Novice, as all expected. Fit Model was a very small kind of category. Generally, this is the way that Fit Model goes, unfortunately. But it's getting better. We saw that the Queensland Fit Model for Season A in IFBB was quite large, and the Nationals Fit Model was quite large as well. So I think it was just more... The thing is, if you're doing Open IFBB, you're probably going to be a natural and fit model regardless. So there'd be no point in doing natural IFBB to do it. I can't imagine too many fit model competitors to be utilising PEDs. If they are, well, I just don't think it's necessary personally. Maybe some lipos, I guess, but not something that I can't imagine that to be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being naive. I don't know. But they really rushed through this category. It was pretty clear the way it was going. So they went to bikini. Again, this was I'm not going to say an interesting one, but bikini's a bit like men's physique. Sometimes you get pushed out. There's our girl Jess in second place. Jess looked great. Jess prepped for 5 weeks, which is crazy. So for her to pull second, that's Masters. And I think she pulled fourth in the Open, exceptional. If we had come in a little bit of better shape, I reckon we could have pushed for that top spot. But that is what it is. Amy Bidwell did win the overall. It was a little bit of a mixed bag in the bikini, but overall I felt judged well and judged fairly, as we generally expect. Well, we would hope anyway. And I think that might wrap it up, to be fair. Not a hell of a lot to it. Overall, what else have we got here? Damn, this recording's been a lot more lackluster than I was kind of expecting. I feel like I could provide some more insights. We don't have it all. That's okay. Overall, look, it was a great show. I think we've really got a good future ahead of us with this, especially in Australia and with all the pro qualifiers opening up worldwide. It really just gives a little bit of leverage for guys who don't want to take the PED plunge. And I don't blame people for not wanting to take the PED plunge, to be fair. It's a commitment. It's invasive of health. It's invasive of fertility. It's expensive. And you always got to ask yourself, what's the risk versus reward? Obviously, I openly work with assisted athletes and I'm openly an assisted athlete, but that's not to say it's for anyone else. So I think to have this opportunity and to bring it all together, because I think the biggest issue that we always saw with the natural federations was that there were multiple feds, so you'd have to dip your toes in all of them. One pro card wouldn't transfer into another pro card or translate to another pro card. Placing well in one federation wouldn't translate to placing well in another federation, so on and so forth. Whereas what we have with the IFBB Naturals or the NPC Naturals is you have one place where people can go to and they're able to access a world stage through competing at these shows and know exactly what's expected from a judging panel and a set of criteria which is set to a worldwide standard, which I think is pretty cool. And that's not to say that other federations don't have that, but there is still some teething in some of those there. Just to reiterate, I absolutely love NBA in particular, so I think NBA is an awesome option and something which is going to successfully coexist with the IFBB. So obviously has some good degree. They have some really good ambition in taking that to this kind of level and to making sure that there is a reasonable degree of integrity in the federation. But I think just having that one-stop shop is all the difference now, because individuals know. Because it's always been as a coach, you always got so you got a client competing in one federation one weekend, and you got to land them in one manner, and then the next weekend you have another federation, you got to spill them, or you got to get them leaner, and then they don't even place, or they win one fed. I've had clients literally win one federation, they place 10th in another federation in the same season, same category. But I think what they're trying to do here is exceptional. Not that it's necessarily specific to Australia, but the fact that Australia has taken it upon themselves, or Tony has taken it upon himself to bring this to Australia, I think is really, really cool. And it's really exciting for all my athletes and for my future as a coach too, because I love working with naturals. I love working with naturals. Sometimes I find it more enjoyable than working with the assisted. I don't think there's a specific preference I have. It just comes down to the athlete that you're working with. But the next year we got 5 shows, so there's obviously going to be the opportunity to win a pro card, and that's going to be awesome. But I'm pretty happy with how everything panned out. Judging, all the winners were fair, all the placings were fair. There was a couple of more questionable ones, but it was never that top 3 that was questionable. It's always just when you get to the back of the pack, and there's going to be less questions raised there. And at the end of the day, I'm no judge. I always said I'd love it if the judges could just provide the actual scorecards of how they've marked this, and this. I don't know if they necessarily do that, just so we know and we can get an explanation around things. So I think that would open up a lot of clarity around why people place where, and then also just perfect feedback for people to be able to work with to move closer towards their goal of potentially turning pro, potentially winning a class, potentially placing a class. And you got to remember, goals in bodybuilding are all going to be relative to the individual. It's never going to be a case of this is the intended outcome, so on and so forth. So all in all, great show. Get involved next year if you are a natural competitor, and always taking applications for good competitors, so feel free to reach out. Hope you enjoyed. I probably didn't give as much insight as I actually thought I would. I wish I did. I think it was so black and white. And because it was it was a news show, so we didn't necessarily, you go into like season A, season B, IFBB, you sort of know who's going to be up and against it. They've got social media followings, like there's a bit of beef online, and you kind of get excited. Because this was a new show, we didn't really know what we were expecting. So everyone was sort of just in it for themselves. Some of these rivalries will probably start to heat up now, which is cool. But looking forward to what the future holds. Anyway, thank you for watching. Short, sharp snippet. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll speak to you guys soon.